the t-test. T-test. Okay? So saan ba galing itong t-test? Bakit siya tinawag na T? It's because, alam niyo ba, ang gumawa ng test na ito ay isang food technologist. Yes. So wag niyong isipin na food tech kayo. Hindi niyo kayang magawa ng test. You can do this because the one who made this test is a food technologist. He used to work in a brewery. Okay? Paggawaan ng beer. So, gumagawa siya ng mga test doon kung masarap ba yung beer, maganda ba yung beer. And he invented this test. His name is actually called Gusset. No? Ang T dyan is galing yan sa kasi nagtabaho siya noon sa isang brewery. No? So kung meron mang result, hindi niya pwede i-publish, no? Kasi it's a, kumbaga sabihin natin, company secret siya. So what he did is to share, kasi ano siya yung parang hindi siya selfish, no? hindi siya greedy. So pinablis pa rin niya yung method, pero gumamit siya ng pen name. Gumamit siya ng other name. Kumbaga sino ba si Pukwang o Pukwang. It's not his real name, her real name. Ginamit lang niya yung Pukwang na yun. Meron talaga siyang real name. Could be na so for example, si Clarice. Ano bang alias mo, Clarice?
Kiki, sir.
Kiki. Oh, so Kiki, kung mag-invento siya ng test, Key-test or Kiki-test. Yeah? So, ang ginamit niya na alias ng pinablis niya itong method na to is student T. Student. So, student. Ang ginamit niya na alias. Okay. So much for the history and inspiration for you. Let's discuss this t-test. Kailan ba applicable ang t-test? Paano naman siya naiba doon sa z-test? So, ito nilagay na dito, no? Independent samples and variances unknown. So, pag sinabing variances unknown, we refer to the population variance. So, unlike sa z-test na before natin ma-apply, dapat alam natin yung population variance. T-test, pwede hindi natin alam, but we compute it or we estimate it from the sample. Okay. So, if we have a variance that is unequal, so dalawa kasing case yan, it's either equal or unequal. So, if the variances are assumed to be unequal, so it means that the two population variants are unequal, then we can use this formula. It's actually very similar. Itong mga test na kasi ito is very similar siya. It's based on the transforming the sample to standardized samples. So we still have this form minus the mean and of course yung standard error. Pinalitan lang natin si variance, population variance ng what? Sample variance. So ano ibig sabihin? So it means that we just use the sample variance to estimate the population variance. But here we don't use the z distribution or the normal distribution. Okay? Or no, we don't use this anymore. We use the t distribution. And the t distribution has one parameter, okay? And that is called the degree of freedom. Yan yung parameter ng ating t-decision. Bakit may degree of freedom tayo? Yan, sino maka-explain? Na-explain ko na yata ito. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng degrees of freedom? Let's have katubig. EJ? EJ? Yes, what is degree of freedom? There's a freedom without. There's a freedom within. Trying to catch the moment. Oi! Okay, let's go to maka-amnesia po din ko yung quarantine. Okay, let's have my favorite student. Char, wala ba ito ako favorite? Eloisa. Ano ba yung idea ng degree of freedom? Sige. Ha?
Limot na po po.
Nga? Ano? Isa may nakahinomdom be. Kainomdom na lang. Degree of freedom. Si Philip. Si Felipe. Dalawa. Kainomdom pa ka, Philip?
Sir, nanay. Ay, nanay. Tawag na ka ng murag area na ba di siya mag-vary?
Area?
Ay, tama ba?
So when you say degree of freedom, it actually refers to estimate. Okay? Your estimate. So, how many values ang maset before, or how many values ang maset before na ang isang kumbaga dapat i-fix muna yon, then the rest will not be free to vary. So yun ang tinatawag nating degree of freedom. So for example, if I say the average of 4 numbers is 5. Find the 5 numbers. Okay, yan yung question, no? So what are those 5 numbers? The average of 4 number, 4 lang pala, but 5. The average of 4 numbers is 5. Okay? Find the 4 numbers din. So ano yung 4 numbers such that ang average niya is 5? Can you give me one? Pwede sa chat lang. EJ, can you give me a number na isa lang ibigay mo sa akin na pero 4 numbers siya, ang average niya ay 5. Can you give me one of the numbers? Okay, so you have 3. Eloisa, can you give me one? number. Okay, 6. Good. Erica. 5. And last number. 6. So you have now 5, right? Average. Okay. If you have a 5, actually, mapansin ninyo, you are free to choose any of the 3 numbers. But once the 3 numbers are given, the choice for the 4th number is fixed. So kung sabihin kong 4 yan, 1 yan, 3 yan, tapos ang average ay 5, do you have choice for the last number? You don't have a choice now. But it's actually what we call fixed na siya. Kasi nga, hindi natin pwede na mag-vary pa siya. Isa lang talaga ang pwede na value na malagay natin dito such that ang average ay 5. What is that value? So just 20 minus it, or that is 12, right? Hindi siya pwede 13, 1, or what? It's 12. So that is actually the idea of degree of freedom. Okay? So the degree of freedom for the average is always n minus 1. It's because if you're going to compute, if the average is computed, okay, so it's not computed, it's given, and you have, let us say, n values, then the degree of freedom is n minus 1 because the n minus 1 values are free to vary, but the nth value is fixed once the n minus 1 values are given. That is the idea of the degree of freedom. So for example, dito, sinabi ko, bigyan niyo ako ng 4 na number ng average of 5. Pwede niyo actually gawin yung 1 million dyan, or 2 million dito, ito naman ay 5 million. But the last number is fixed such that ang average niya ay 5 pa rin. Could be a very large negative number. But you get the idea of what it means by free to degree of freedom. So, bakit kailangan ng degree of freedom? Because we are actually just estimating the variance. And the degree of freedom of the variance is n minus 1. Always yan siya. Okay, that's the degree of freedom. Correct? So now you have, so here the degrees of freedom is just equal to the smaller of n1, n sub 1 minus 1, and n sub 2 minus 1. So whichever is smaller, then that will be the degree of freedom. Okay, so kailan natin magamit? So what are the assumptions of that t-test? First, the samples are random. Okay, that's very important because ibang test ang gagamitin natin kung ang samples ay hindi siya random or hindi siya applicable in that case. Number 2, the sample data are independent. So that's another consideration. If they are not independent, then there's another test which is we will discuss later. It's called the paired t-test. And when the sample sizes are less than 30, the population must be normally or approximately normally distributed. In most problems that we will encounter, we assume that they are normally distributed. If not, then this test is not applicable ever, never. Okay? So in practice, you need to check these assumptions, whether these assumptions hold for your data.